Hi, I'm Maria.
Hi, I'm Emma.
And I'm Terrence.
All right. And we're all editors here at MetaStellar, and we have some free sci-fi and fantasy books for you to read this weekend. Two of them by USA Today bestselling authors. Your turn, Emma. We're still working out the kinks here.
Since when was it my turn? I thought you were saying it.
The script says today is Friday, August 29th.
Oh, okay. Well, today is Friday. It's August 29th, and we have a bunch of new free sci-fi and fantasy books for you to read this weekend.
I guess we're reading the wrong different scripts because today's list includes romantasy, dystopias, and a space opera. And grab them quick because they don't stay free for long. So the way this works is that we read from the same script, but I guess we're not doing that today. Anyway, we read the first three chapters of each of these books that are top of Amazon's free sci-fi and fantasy bestseller list because Amazon has a bestseller list just of free science fiction and fantasy books. And let's just get into the first book, which is book number 5, and we're going to count down to book number 1. And I read the beginning of this one, so I'll tell you what it's about. And why don't I make it a little bit bigger so you guys can all see that? Here we go. This is the 5th of 11 books in the Druid's Brooch historical fantasy series, but you don't have to read them in order. The other books are $1 to $6 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want, as long as you don't mind being part of the Amazon hegemony, which Terrence minds, and he's probably going to tell you about that later. And we've seen the author on our list before. So I'm not a fan of historical fantasy, especially romantic historic magical fantasy. The one exception being Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. And I read that accidentally because I thought it was a time travel book, and then it sucked me in before I knew it. But this book did not suck me in. So it opens with a woman named Etane cooking over a hearth fire. She burns the bread and she worries that her husband will be upset because he's a bit abusive. And he is. And some guests arrive and they talk about politics. And then afterwards, she talks with her grandson and tells him about herbs and finding things that can heal people, because I guess she's got some experience in this. And then we learn that she's had many husbands, at least 5, because she's lived 5 different lifetimes, because she has a magical brooch that she inherited from her mother. And so even though she's like super old, she only looks like she's 30. And she's had to move multiple times, leaving everyone she knew behind because people would start catching on. And so she has some magic that she uses to make herself look older, but the magic has to be renewed daily. And if she slips up, people might kill her for being a witch. So she has to like flee on a regular basis, leaving her entire family behind. Um, and
Does she weigh more than a duck?
Yeah, and she also doesn't like being alone, which is why she keeps getting married and staying with this guy who's abusive. Even though her grandson's like, "Why are you even staying with him, Grandma?" And he keeps hitting you. And at the beginning is very slow. So we learn her story, we learn about her relationships with her family, we learn about the politics in this small European village. It feels, I guess, wherever the Druids were, Scottish, maybe Welsh, somewhere in the UK. Um, and I don't like her as a character. So, like, it seems a little selfish to like use this magic only for yourself and not figure out ways to kind of help other people with it. I don't know. Um, and it's a pretty slow beginning, and it's really not clear what the plot is. And also, I don't like the whole historic romance genre, so I'm not going to be sticking with it. I do have to say that it is readable because it is on the bestseller list. It's weirdly formatted. It's got that thing where there's a extra line break between every paragraph, and none of them are indented. So that was like a little odd to see, which usually a sign that a book hasn't been professionally laid out. But it doesn't really distract from a reading experience that much. So if you like these kind of books, it's free, so why not? And I also read the beginning of the next book, Rogue Assembly by Randolph Lalonde, which is much more up my alley. This is the first of 3 books in the Rogue Element, a science fiction space opera-ish series. The other books are $5 to $6 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And this is related to another series called Spinward Fringe, which has 22 books in it, the first of which is also free today. It felt really familiar, kind of setting, distant future, lots of planets, survival of humanity at stake, an AI pretending to be human, escaping through the universe. I thought I read it before, but I don't think I have, because I can't find any evidence of me having read this author, and we haven't reviewed it on MetaStellar, but it does feel very familiar. It's probably just because I've read a lot of space operas. So anyway, once I got into it, there was a lot of backstory that related back to the previous books. So if you like this kind of thing, you'd probably want to check out the other series first. So anyway, in a prologue, we meet Rogue, and we'll learn right off that she's an AI who used to run on somebody's wrist computer, and she always wanted to be human. Then she was supposed to pretend to be a specific human in order to act as a decoy, and she was programmed with that woman's memories and emotional baggage, and when the mission was over, she still cared about all the things that human had cared about. And then we get a whole bunch of backstory about that other person and the missions they were on and all that kind of thing, which I try to kind of gloss over so I wouldn't spoil anything for myself in case I read that other series. And it does seem relevant. So another reason to go back and read the other stuff. So all of that was backstory. And then the story begins in earnest with Rogue on a flying hover bike, heading into a city on an alien planet. There's different species living here. She's there to attend some kind of sporting event, and she paid extra so she could meet the players. And she's on a mission to kind of figure out who she is, like as an AI who wants to be human and how to combine these two things together. And she's heard that there's a guy who's been able to meld human intelligence and AI intelligence. And one of the players of this competition might know him and where he is. So she's at this sporting match, and there's a bunch of cyborgs in the audience, and the players are cyborgs. They have replacement parts. And then after the match, she's got an extra special ticket that she paid extra for. So she gets to go behind the scenes to meet the players, and she runs into somebody from her past, somebody from those other books. And it's a criminal and an enemy of the woman Rogue had been pretending to be. And Rogue still looks a little bit like that woman. And there's what seems to be a tense moment, but it passes. And Rogue continues to pretend to be a fan, and she pays an additional astronomical sum for a one-on-one meeting with the player that she wants to talk to. And then she finally gets in to see the player, and the player tells her that he doesn't know where the guy is who Rogue is looking for, but he's got some even better information for her. The name of the tech guy who did that other guy's programming. So she's getting closer to her, her objective here. And she decides to leave, and as she's leaving the room, the criminal from her past shows back up and takes Rogue down with a high-tech net and stuffs her into a box the size of a coffin. And then Rogue, let's just say, overreacts a little bit to being in captivity. Apparently, she's some kind of like a super weapon with super AI powers. So I did like the writing and the character, but there's a lot of backstory here that gets told in summary. It does sound interesting, and I might check out the other series. And there seems to be a backstory that has interstellar criminal organizations and good guys fighting against them, and government alliances and dictatorships and democracies and politics and all that stuff happening out there. So it seems to be a very complicated universe with a lot of stuff going on, which, is something you often get in space operas. So definitely interesting. The author also has some interesting takes on what it means to be a sentient AI. And in this day and age, also very interesting to get other people's perspective on stuff like that. All right, then we have
Robots will be taken over the world very soon, if they haven't taken them over already.
yeah. I think you're onto something there. Next, we have The Freedom Fleet by Daniel Arenson, who's a regular on our Free Friday lists. And this is the first of 4 books in the Freedom Fleet, a space opera series. The other books are $6 each, and they are in Kindle Unlimited. And Terrence read this for us. Terrence, what did you think of this book? And you're on mute. Yeah.
Yes, I was. Well, it's not. Well, in real life, it's impossible to put me on mute. Okay, so basically, the whole premise of this book is Nazis in space. It takes place in the distant future. We are following and the intro names, I believe, Ishmael, and he is the first to encounter this fleet from another dimension, and this isn't an extraterrestrial force. This is space Nazis. Basically, this giant steampunk-looking ship that's a couple of miles long is from an alternate universe where the Nazis won World War II. So now the Earth's forces are going to have to fight back against the alternate timeline Nazis, and I can't say I'm a big fan of military sci-fi in general, but so far the way everything's described, like with the giant ship and the sci-fi future Nazis with a single bionic glowing red eye and a Nazi trench coat, it all seems very ridiculous and somehow eerily relevant to today. I'm not sure why at this point. Can't quite put my finger on it right now, but I might continue with this one. Just keep in mind I'm juggling 100 other books at this moment because I likely have ADHD.
Okay, so let's go on to book number 2 on today's list.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
If you wanna give money to a competitor of an actual fascist by buying an anti-fascist book, you can also get this book on bookshop.org or palace.com.
And uh, Terrence, if you email me that link, I'll add it to the description box below. Okay,
Thank
next
you.
book. This is Buried Heroes by Beth Ball, the first of 5 books in the Age of Azuria fantasy series. The other books are $3 to $5 each, and they are in Kindle Unlimited. And Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book, or the beginning of this book?
I was excited about it because it seemed like there was a bunch of different races of elves and like magical amulets and deep druid magic. And even though it seems like it's a romantasy, it also feels like it might be a little bit of epic fantasy, a little bit. And the beginning of it definitely felt like that. So, start with the book begins with Yvain. She's this elven woman and she's racing through the forest because she's trying to find a woman who used to work for her. Because that woman is being attacked and she also happens to be a druid and there's this dark force that's been hunting the last of the magic users down, so she's trying to help that friend, and she uses her magic to take the energy from nature, and she uses like the spirits of the wood to guide her where this woman's being chased. So I read this and I honestly was not sure how this works, but it'll probably be explained later. But she like uses the spirits and it sort of acts like as if she was putting on sunglasses and then she can like see the person through the trees. It was very weird. But she finds the druid woman. She's being attacked by this man who's like basically a rotting corpse. Like most of his throat has like just sloughed off. His hands are just bone at this point. But he also has this ring on his finger and it neutralizes any of the magic that the druid woman attempts to use. So she can't shapeshift, she can't do anything. And before Yvain can intervene, the druid is swallowed up into the earth, and she knows that this is where this woman's been taken into this layer underground. And they have a little bit of a confrontation, but for some reason, the rotting corpse man doesn't attack her as well, despite her having magic, and instead he promises to return. The book then cuts to Eliath, and she's this young elven woman. She's been betrothed to a lord, and she's determined to make the best of it. But her true goal is to get to the sea and possibly find her father. But she stops in the garden on a way to visit her friend goodbye, and while there, her friend tells her the story of like the first humans to live in the realm. One of them came across this elven woman, and the friend also mentions that this woman in the story kind of resembles Iliath, but the two were forced apart despite falling in love, and the legend has it is they've been looking for each other ever since, and it's kind of like the backstory to how humans showed up versus elves in this world. So the story is very similar to Tolkien's Beren and Luthien legend, if you've ever read the Silmarillion, and I thought I'd just put that up there. But Iliath says goodbye to her friend, she returns to her home, and we get some backstory about how her mother fell in love with her father, they were forced out of her home because it was an affair, and they lived by the sea for a little bit, but then they separated, and then she remarried and moved back here, her mom did. And when she meets her mother, Iliath is given this amulet, which, according to the front cover, promises to be extremely important to the story. So that's where I stopped reading, but I really enjoyed the beginning of this one. It's got magic, it's got dark forces, it's got all this legend in it. I definitely saw some Tolkien inspiration, so I'm not mad at that. It also didn't hit me with the romance right from the beginning. So I was allowed to be sucked in and I enjoyed the world a bit. So whether you like romance or fantasy, or if you like a little bit of both, I recommend you check this book out.
All right. Before we go on to book number 1 in today's list, which is also by USA Today bestselling author, I would like to thank our Patreon supporters. Here they are, with Marianne Connolly being the newest one to join our family. Thank you so much. And Emma can tell you why they're so important.
Yeah, they're really important because our entire team, including myself, Terrence, Maria, everyone, they are all volunteers, and all of the money that we raise goes directly towards paying real human authors of sci-fi and fantasy. So there's no AI. We don't accept AI generated work. This is all for humans. And the money goes to pay for original fiction. And we publish them on our website every week. And you don't want to miss any of it. And there's also a newsletter you can subscribe to, which hopefully we get because there's been some technical difficulties. But
Yeah.
on top of that, yeah. On top of that, we also publish anthologies. We currently have 3 out. Are you going to show them?
Technical difficulties in case people are waiting for the newsletter to arrive. So, or complaining that the website has been slow. Apparently, there's been a huge amount of bot traffic on the internet, and it's hit some sites really hard. And our hosting company has turned off a bunch of functionality in the back end to try to make it work better. And then I turned on a bunch of like bot protections to help that out as well. And it broke our newsletter. And it also broke some of the social media auto posting. So the reason we got started late doing this taping is because I was trying to fix the newsletter and get it to go out. And it's past 6 o'clock. It's more than an hour late. I still haven't been able to get it to go out. So hopefully I'll get it out to you guys later on today. But meanwhile, if you're here, if you're watching this video, you get everything in the description box down below anyway. Okay. Sorry, Emma.
You're good. So going back, we also publish anthologies, and like I said, we have 3 out. I am currently help editing number 4, and it is actually due out in September, so we're really excited about that. We also serialize novels. Gods and Monsters by E.E. King is on the rating list for next year's Nebula Awards, so it's not nominated, but it's a big step in that direction, and we're really excited about that. So you can also read that book for free on the website or buy it in print and electronic form from all major retailers. And this year we are serializing RENNA'S Crossing by Geordie Morse. It's a magical coming-of-age story set in a world that's not too much unlike our own. And last but not least, I would like to point out that Maria has some books on Amazon. They are the humorous sci-fi bestseller list. They're also free. And I'm helping her with her next book because I am a book coach and an editor. And you can find my information on how to contact me for free consultation in the description box below.
All right. Woohoo. Now, on to book number 1 on today's
Just one more thing.
Yes, Terrence.
Just one more thing. A quick word from Colombo. We also have been running a weekly comic strip called Spell Check by artist Nat Cooter. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. You can find her on Instagram at Green Couch Comics. This is the 5th comic of hers we have published, and new strips come out every Thursday at noon, so be sure to check that out.
All right, and they did go up, so hopefully it will continue to go up. All right, next book, Planet B by Jasper T. Scott. Let me make that bigger so you guys can see it, and I read the beginning of this one. So this is the first of 3 books in the Architects of the Apocalypse, kind of a near future dystopian kind of series by a USA Today bestselling author. The other books are $1 to $3 each, and they are all in Kindle Unlimited, and we've seen the author before. So I don't like books about dystopian futures or apocalypses, so not a fan. The book begins in the year 2069, and this was interesting to me. So it's a near future, and there's a lot of like cool new technology sprinkled through it, like virtual reality glasses and holograms and flying cars and other cool tech. So I enjoyed that part very much. The first person we meet is Alice, and she's out on the deck with her 9-year-old son in the woods of Maine. She's an astronomer, and the 2 of them are looking through a telescope at the stars, and her husband joins them with a couple of glasses of wine. And there's a bright light in the sky. They think it's a meteor, but when she looks closer, it's a brand new planet. There's a new planet in the solar system, and it just appeared out of nowhere in a big burst of light. And then we switch to the next chapter. where we meet another woman, Layla. She lives in New York City. She's a cop. She's just waking up. She listens to the news. There's protests out there. The mayor is talking about rising sea levels. People have to move further inland. And she looks at some other top headlines and sees one about a new planet, one that's similar to Earth and even closer to us than Mars, and that just appeared out of nowhere. And she thinks that the scientists must have made some mistake because planets don't just appear out of nowhere. Then her ex calls her, and we learn that the reason that they broke up is because he had an affair with her best friend. He wants the engagement ring back, and there's a little bit of back and forth there. Then in the next chapter, we switch point of view again. Tom is in prison in maximum security. And he's a tough guy. When he first landed in prison, he beat a bunch of bullies within an inch of their lives. And he also has an advanced degree in paleontology, and it's not really clear why he's in prison. But he's on the outs with another with another group of prisoners, and when they're all in the yard together, they attack him. And this time they're well armed with shivs, and he's about to get his throat sliced when there's a bright light, and he and his attacker suddenly find themselves in a field in the middle of nowhere. And there's no guards or prison anywhere in sight. They're definitely not in New York anymore, and the plants don't look right, and they can hear birds, but the birds don't sound like normal birds. Next chapter, again we switch points of view. This time it's a rich guy named Preston who's watching the news in his penthouse overlooking Central Park, and everyone's talking about this new planet. And he decides to go to talk to the astronomer who discovered it. Well, the astronomer being Alice, because she's back in New York, and she works at the local university. And so he decides to take the air car to go see her. Then we switch back to Layla, the cop, and she's investigating Tom's mysterious disappearance because he and the other prisoner just disappeared in the middle of the yard with no apparent reason. And one of the other prison guards thinks that the new planet might have somehow been involved. So there's a lot of characters here, and I have a really, really hard time remembering people's names and keeping track of multiple characters. So that is always kind of a bit of a downside for me. And also when you have a lot of characters at the beginning, it's hard to get to know any one of them because you're just hopping from one character to the next. And it's also not really clear what any of these characters want, what their plot is going to be, or anything else like that. And it's in several chapters in, and it's not really clear what the plot of this book is. What's the big thing that's going to happen? Is this planet going to disrupt Earth? Are people going to randomly just start teleporting over to that planet? Is somebody behind it? We don't know any of this. So it's a bit of a slow beginning that way. And I don't think I'm going to be sticking with it. But on an unrelated note, there was a book called A Little Waif Justice by Renee Jagger that I was reading like a week or two ago. Well, I finished that book. I finished all the other books in that series, and I downloaded the related series by the same author, the Valerie Stonehold series, and I'm halfway through that right now. So highly recommend, lots of fun, great escapist reading. If you follow these Free Fridays on a regular basis, I'll update that post as well. And that's it for today. I think we need to go and try to see if we can fix that newsletter issue. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. And we're gonna go do some website tech support stuff. And
We're going to turn it off and on again.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna have to do, which is kind of hard to do with a whole website. But here on YouTube, things do seem to be going okay. And so you can subscribe to this channel and get the videos, automatically. So go do that. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll have a great weekend with these free books. I hope you enjoy them. Let us know if you do. And we'll see you next Friday. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Emma. Thanks,
Bye.
Terrence, for joining me.
Live long and prosper.
Bye-bye.